Okay, well, welcome everybody to the very first episode of Beyond the Crown. I'm Lexy Romano Condon. I'm your 2026 Mrs. Arizona, and I'm so honored to get to chat with you and tell you a little bit about my story beyond the crown and behind the crown. So this podcast is mainly meant to tell you my story, share a little bit of detail, but also highlight some of the amazing local businesses and some of the amazing local sponsors that I get the opportunity to work with on my journey. So I am just so excited and so honored for you guys to be a part of it with me. And if you're watching or listening, thank you so much. And I hope you enjoy. So I want to dive right into my story. If you know me, you know that I never really planned on living in Arizona. I am a California girl, born and bred, SoCal girl. And it was after college that I moved to New York City. That was always my dream, to live in New York. I love New York so much. It's my favorite city in the world. And I had the amazing opportunity to live there for many years. And I was there, I was singing and performing, and I had the opportunity to go work on a cruise ship. While I was working on the cruise ship, I met my now husband, Josh, and we actually did long distance for many years. I was living in New York, and he was on and off cruise ships, but then he moved here to Arizona to get his master's. So when we got engaged, he said, "Hey, why don't you come to Arizona?" And I was like, "Arizona? I live in New York City. Like, I'm not going to leave New York City," but it worked out timing-wise for me to come here. It worked out financially for me to come here. So I thought, great, I'll come until he finishes his master's. That turned into, let's stay for a year. That turned into, let's stay for a couple years. Let's stay through COVID. And 8 years later, we are still here. And now we have a beautiful home and we have our little boy, Arlo. And Arizona has been very good to us. I always say that. Arizona has really welcomed us and made us feel like we belong here. So I sit here wearing this crown and this sash that says Mrs. Arizona. And if you had told me 10 years ago that this would be the case, I would have laughed. I would never have believed it. But God works in mysterious ways, as they say. He works in ways that are higher than ways that we can understand. And I just know that this was the right timing for me. And I know that he really put me here for a reason. And I'm so honored and thankful to be here. Okay, so I also want to talk about, I want to continue on this kind of path, because I have this theme for this year of being Mrs. Arizona and talks that I've done already about blooming where you're planted. So this was a really difficult idea for me to grasp. Somebody told me that phrase when I had first moved here to Arizona and I was struggling. I was having a really hard time. And someone told me, bloom where you're planted. And it sounds so cheesy. It sounds corny and silly. But I fought those first couple of years of living here in Arizona so much. I made myself and I made everyone else around me really miserable. I thought that if I just pushed hard enough, if I willed it into existence, I would get to a certain place and that then I would be happy. In my mind, that was New York. I have to get back to New York. That's the only way I'll be happy. That's the only way I'll be fulfilled. And when this person said to me, bloom where you're planted, it took a long time for that to really settle in to my spirit and my heart and to really feel like, okay, that's something that I can do and I actually want to do. And it, like I said, it took a while. It wasn't immediate. It wasn't right after that person told me that I was like, oh, and all of a sudden everything's rosy and beautiful and perfect. It took a long time and it took active choices for me to plant roots, to choose to be happy, to choose to be content. But so I think that everybody in life has that moment where they can say, am I blooming where I've been planted? Am I allowing my circumstances to be a catalyst for something good? Am I allowing the things around me to bring joy and bring peace, or am I just fighting it? Am I making myself miserable? Am I making the people around me miserable because I'm just thinking about the other things that I don't have? I wish I had this, instead of focusing on the things that I do have. So in saying that, I don't believe that I became Mrs. Arizona because of simply that one factor. I think anytime you're competing for something, there's lots of different factors involved. But I do think allowing myself to have pride in where I live, be proud of the journey that I've been on and where God has planted me, I think that helped me to settle into who I am now and where I am now, and have the ability to wear this crown and have this title and the responsibility that comes along with that. I think I personally had to grow into the woman that I am and I'm still becoming before I would be able to have this title. So it's a really, really big responsibility, and I'm really honored to have it. So I also want to talk about other things that I thought might never happen, which was becoming a mom. So I'm an old new mom, as I like to say, and this was another journey that was unexpected. And I had to actively take the time to change my thinking, to open myself up to ideas that were different from what I had planned for my life. And when I did that, that's when I really saw the Lord work in my life, and I really saw my own ability to change and evolve and become someone better than I could have ever imagined, which is a mom. When you're a parent, you're constantly challenged. You're constantly, your patience is challenged. Your ideas of how you think things are going to happen is challenged. And as someone who, I'm not a control freak necessarily, but I do like to have things go a certain kind of way. And I can get stuck in an idea and have a blinder on what I think I want. And the gift of being a parent is knowing that you don't know what's going to happen. You don't know how it's going to happen, what your child's going to do, what your toddler's going to do, what their personality is going to be like. And surrendering to that is another thing that I think has really helped create a new personality in me, and a new ability to grow and learn and evolve. And I think that's another reason that I've had this opportunity to step into this new opportunity as Mrs. Arizona. Okay, so before I get too choked up about that, I want to talk about something else that's exciting: my platform and my scholarship fund, which is Hearts for Arts. So this is something that's deeply personal to me as someone who grew up loving music and wanting to be a singer and wanting to be on stage. I know that desire, especially for someone who maybe doesn't have the access to training programs, to music lessons, to theater lessons, to dance classes. I understand having that desire without necessarily having the resources. So Hearts for Arts is all about sending particularly young women to these kinds of opportunities. And as someone who made a career in music and has a spouse who has made a career in music, I know that having these kind of opportunities can literally change the trajectory of your life and your career as a musician. So this is something really deeply personal for me, and it has really launched. It's really been started since I began campaigning to run for Mrs. Arizona. So we have our first recipient of the Hearts for Arts Scholarship, who is going to a camp this summer of 2026. I'm so excited to share that she's going to a camp right here in Arizona, a music camp, and she loves theater and she loves music. And so I just want to share that with all of you, and thank you guys so much if you contributed, or even if you just shared something about Hearts for Arts. And if you don't know anything about it, please go on Instagram to @HeartsForArts and check it out. All righty, so let's get into actual Mrs. Arizona talk. So I am not like a super uber pageant girl. Like, I've done one pageant before, and that was 20 years ago when I was in college. So doing pageants was it was something that I had done in the past, but it still felt new to me. It felt like kind of a full circle moment, right? I had done this in college. It was for the scholarship money. I was like, oh, I need to pay for school. Let me do this pageant. Let me do Miss Fullerton. And I was so honored that time I won, and I was able to go to Miss California, and it was a huge blessing. It was a wonderful opportunity. I made some great friends, people who I still keep in touch with today. So I kind of put that out of my mind, and I hadn't really thought about it in years. When I came across the Mrs. Arizona pageant, it was actually through a former Mrs. Arizona American, Megan Charney, shout out girl. And I was like, oh my gosh, she is so beautiful. She's so amazing. She's doing so many cool things. What is this pageant for married women? I actually had reached out to Megan on Instagram, and she hit me back and she was like, yeah, this is an amazing system. You should really check it out. So for anyone who thinks their time is over, who maybe you think, I'm married, I have kids, I'm too old, there are still pathways for you to do this. So I found Mrs. Arizona, fell in love with it. I kind of hemmed and hawed for a while. I went back and forth on it. So when I actually ended up joining, it was later in the process. There were a lot of people who had already joined earlier on. They had already gone to workshops. They had been training for it. So I felt like I was a little bit last minute. I was a little late to the party. But the group of women who were there who were competing for Mrs. Arizona were so incredible. They welcomed me. I had many lunches and coffees and drinks with people who were just so wonderful. And I truly meant it when I said I was just so honored to stand on that stage with those women. And I remember being on that stage that night and feeling like it didn't matter what the outcome was. And this is going to sound so cheesy. It didn't matter what the outcome was because I was so proud that I still had the ability inside myself to work incredibly hard for something and feel like I nailed it. Because even if I hadn't won, I felt like I stood on that stage and gave it my 100%. And so obviously winning was, I had hoped for it, and I had prayed that if that was what the Lord wanted for me, then of course I would be so grateful and thankful. But I truly joined to make friends, and what I actually got out of it was a renewed sense of self that I still got it. No, I still have the ability to work hard for something. I still have the ability to be tenacious and to go after a goal and to be successful. So it was a huge gift to myself to just stand on that stage and feel proud. So even if I hadn't captured the crown that night, it was a winning moment because I just was so proud of myself. So if you're a Mrs. like me and maybe you have zero pageant experience or you only have a little, you can do it. And there's an opportunity there for you to shine and to feel proud of yourself as well. So I'm so thankful for everybody who's listened to this. This is my very first episode of Beyond the Crown. We're going to have a ton of fun guests. We're going to talk to other former Mrs. Arizonas, maybe even a former Mrs. America. And it's just a space to share about our community and what makes pageantry really great and really beautiful. So I hope that you'll tune in and listen. I hope you'll subscribe. And thank you guys so much. I'm so honored to be your Mrs. Arizona 2026.